că El este prezentat ca un model de credință pentru noi. În primul rând, omenește vorbind, la vârsta Lui, nu putea să aibă copii descendenți, iată că Dumnezeu îi promite o descendență, îi promite un urmaș, pe Isaac. Dar mai apoi îl pune să îl șerfească pe Isaac. Sigur că veți vedea acolo elemente în care se face referință la jertfa lui Iisus Hristos de pe cruce. Și de fapt, noi când participăm la Sfânta Liturghie, retrăim acele momente, pentru că nu sunt doar simple amintiri. Cu alte cuvinte, devenim contemporani cu Iisus Hristos. Iată pentru ce, ori de câte ori participăm la Sfânta Liturghie, să nu uităm că Iisus se jertfește pentru noi toți. Și de fapt ne spune El, nu există o iubire mai mare decât să-ți dai viața pentru celălalt. Și Mântuitorul pe cruce a lăsat deschis brațele pentru fiecare. Acolo, în jertfa Lui, găsim noi refugiu și scăpare. Și avem nevoie de refugiu, de scăpare. Privind crucea, de fapt, descoperim atât răutatea, greșeala păcatului a omului, dar și iertarea, milostinirea lui Dumnezeu. Iată, să urmărim cu atenție această cateheză. Sigur, cei care doriți să aprofundați mai mult, veți avea acolo pentru fiecare zi, pentru că, de fapt, nu este doar o simplă cateheză, e ceva mai mult. Este o lecție divină, o meditare a ceea ce noi trăim. Pentru că la liturghie nu suntem ca simpli spectatori. Știți? Nu mergem la cineva, venim și la liturghie. E total diferit. Așadar, vă invit să urmărim în continuare această cateheză și fiecare apoi acasă să-și reamintească și vorbim de la adușăteste manuale care pot fi procurate, nu sunt așa de scumpe, puteți să faceți o mică jertfă și să luați și manualul acasă. Vedeți? Noi cumpărăm diferite cărți, ziare, dar cele sfinte nu prea ne apropiem cu așa mult entuziasm. Așadar, funcționare plăcută.
Hey, welcome back, everyone, to our third session on the Eucharist, discovering the Mass in the Bible. In this session, we are going to be continue our journey through the Old Testament. We're going to begin in the book of Genesis, but we're going to look now at the imagery of the sacrificial lamb in the Old Testament. And one of the reasons this is important for us to do is because, as Catholics, you'll know that if you go to Mass during the communion rite, something interesting happens. The priest will hold up the post, and he will say these words, "Behold, the Lamb of God, who takes away the sins of the world. Happy are those called to the supper of the Lamb." Now, if you've grown up as a cradle Catholic, you just, roll with that without any hesitation. You think, of course, this is just what we do. But imagine trying to be an outsider for just a minute, stepping into the Mass, and coming to that moment. What might you think? What might run through your mind when the priest holds up this little wafer and says, "Behold the Lamb"? It's an odd thing. It's a strange act. Right? Because what's obviously missing? A sheep. There's no sheep on the altar. There's no sheep in the sanctuary, right? He's holding what appears to be just a wafer. I once had a person close to me actually bring that up and said, "Why is it priest talk about sheep in the middle of it? It seems weird." And it never dawned on me before because I'd always thought back to the Old Testament. And that's what we have to go to understand this, because really what's happening in that moment of Mass is the fulfillment of all the sacrifices, of all the lambs in the Old Testament that are coming to fulfillment in Jesus Christ. So, in this session, what we're going to do is go back to the book of Genesis and the book of Exodus and look at a couple of key texts. First, we're going to look at the sacrifice of Isaac in Genesis chapter 22. And then second, we're going to look at the sacrifice of the Passover lamb in the book of Exodus, chapters 12 and 13. And we're going to see that these two texts are critical for answering the question, why the Lamb? What is the Lamb of God? What does that mean to refer to Christ as the Lamb of God, and then also refer to as the sacrament, the Eucharist, as the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world? And second, in addition to that basic question of what is the Lamb of God, I also want to ask another question I think Catholics will sometimes have as they read the Old Testament, namely, why the animal sacrifices? Anybody ever wondered that before? You first open the page of the Old Testament, you start to see all these animal sacrifices, and it can be a little unnerving, you know? You know, we're okay with bread and wine like we looked at last session being offered to God. But why the little lambs? I mean, what did they ever do to God that he would require that he put to death, right? Does the Lord really like blood? I mean, what's going on here with the sacrifices of the animals in the Old Testament? That's often a question that modern Christians have. And I think that in order to see it clearly, we really got to go back, put those sacrifices in their original context, and then also see how they point forward to the ultimate sacrifice of Jesus Christ. So, let's do that by turning to the book of Genesis, chapter 22, to the famous story of the sacrifice of Isaac. Now, there are many things you could say about the story of Abraham and the sacrifice of Isaac. In a sense, we're fast-forwarding to the climax of the Abrahamic narrative, right? Because as we know, Abram was called by God from the land of Ur, the Chaldeans, Babylon, to come to the promised land and begin a journey with the Lord, in which the Lord promised him that one day his descendants would be as numberless as the stars of heaven, right? And, more importantly, that through his descendants, all the families of the earth would be blessed. That's in Genesis 12. And yet, by the time you get to Genesis 15, 16, 17, what's the one thing Abraham's still lacking? An heir, a son, right? Which is really, really difficult if your name in Hebrew is Avram, which means great father or exalted father. Every time someone would have said Abram's name, it would have reminded him of the one thing that he wasn't, namely a father, right? Hey, great father, how's it going today? You know what you've been up to these last few weeks, great father. And what's the one thing he's missing? A son. He has no son. He has no heir. Right? So finally, God gives him a son after many years of trials and tribulations in the form of Isaac. And then in Genesis 22, God does something extremely strange. After all those years of waiting, God commands Abram to sacrifice his son. So let's look at the story again. I know you know the story. It's very familiar. It's one of the most famous in the Old Testament. But we want to focus our attention in it on why is God asking this of Abram, and how does this point forward to Jesus' sacrifice on the cross. So let's begin. In Genesis 22, verse 1, we read these words. After these things, God tested Abram. That's a test. And he said to him, Abram. And he said, here am I. And he said, take your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah, and offer him there as a burnt offering upon one of the mountains of which I shall tell you. Now pause there for just 1 second. In Hebrew, the burnt offering is the word olah. It literally means to go up. It was a particular kind of sacrifice in which the entire animal would be consumed by fire and offered to God. You didn't eat any part of the animal, right? The entire thing was burned up. This gets translated into Latin as holocaust. Okay, that's where we get the word holocaust, meaning entirely burned. So he's saying not just sacrifice your son, but offer him as a total sacrifice, a whole burnt offering. Now, if I were able at this point, I would have voiced some kind of objection, some kind of question, some kind of query into what saying, excuse me? What did you say? You know, what are you asking of me? In Genesis 22 here, Abraham just quietly obeys. So in verse 3, it says, so Abraham rose early in the morning and saddled his ass, his donkey, and took 2 of his young men with him and his son Isaac. And he cut the wood for the burnt offering, and arose and went to the place of which God had told him. Now on the 3rd day, Abraham lifted up his eyes, and he saw the place afar off. So notice he's looking to a mountain. He can see it in the distance. And then Abraham said to his young men, Stay here, he asked the donkey. I and the lad will go yonder and worship, and come again to you. So Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering, and he laid it on Isaac his son. And he took in his hand the fire and the knife. And so they went, both of them together. And Isaac said to his father Abraham, my father, Avi, my father. And he said, here am I, my son. And he said, behold the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for a burnt offering? Isaac has presumably been to sacrifices before. So we've got the fire, we've got the knife, we've got the wood, but there's something missing. The sacrifice itself, the lamb. Where is the lamb? And so Abraham said, God will provide himself the lamb for a burnt offering, my son. So they went, both of them together. And when they came to the place of which God had told them, Abraham built an altar there. Notice again, Abraham is a priest. He can build altars, he can offer sacrifices. So Abraham built an altar, he laid the wood in order, and he bound Isaac his son, and tied him to the wood. This is important because in Jewish tradition, they don't actually call this the sacrifice of Isaac. They call it the binding of Isaac, the akedah in Hebrew, right? Because he's being tied to the wood for the holocaust. So he bound Isaac his son, he laid him on the altar upon the wood, and then Abraham brought forth his hand and took the knife to slay his son. But the angel of the Lord called to him from heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham! And he said, same word, here am I. And he said, do not lay your hand on the lad, or do anything to him, for now I know that you fear God, seeing you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. So Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him was a ram, caught in a thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram, and offered it up as a burnt offering instead of his son. So Abraham called the name of that place, in Hebrew, Yahweh Yireh. In English, the Lord will provide. So rename this place. The Lord will provide. As it is said to this day, on the mountain of the Lord it shall be provided. Okay, now, pause there for a minute. Most people, when they read this story, stop there. Because it says, it's like, he's saved, right? Isaac made it. He didn't actually sacrifice him after all. And the story kind of stops there. But that's not where Genesis ends the story. And it's critical that you go a few verses further to see what God says about what Abraham has done. It's very critical because it says, the angel of the Lord, verse 15, called on Abraham a second time from heaven and said, by myself I have sworn, says the Lord, because you have done this and have not withheld your son, your only son, I will indeed bless you. I will multiply your descendants as the stars of heaven and as the sand which is on the seashore. Your descendants shall possess the gates of their enemies. And here's the key verse, 18. And by your descendants shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because you have obeyed my voice. So notice, this is the climax of the promise made to Abraham, that through him all the nations of the world would be blessed. Why? Because he was faithful to God, and he was willing to sacrifice Isaac, his only beloved son. And so because of that act of faith, that act of obedience, all the peoples of the world will now be blessed. The promise that God had made is going to be transformed into a covenant which will be fulfilled. Now, with that said then, let's back up for just a minute. In its historical context, then, what is the meaning of this story? In its original historical context, it really is the story of the promises that God made to Abraham back in Genesis 12, finally being, in a sense, ratified or transformed into a holy covenant, right? By means of Abraham's willingness to offer a sacrifice of his son. However, even within that context, there are still certain unanswered questions about the story. Namely, why would God do this? Why would he demand this kind of sacrifice of Abraham? I mean, I'm a father. I have 4 little girls. I have 1 son. I literally cannot fathom God asking this of me. It just boggles the mind. I mean, it's very commonly and widely recognized that one of the worst things that can happen to a person is to lose a child, right? So to have God command Abram, who's waited so long for this child, to actually kill him himself, it boggles the imagination. This doesn't make sense, right? It's scandalous. And sometimes because we've grown up with the story, we tend to forget that this is a scandalous request of God. And some commentators on the book of Genesis actually argue that God here is being depicted as almost capricious and wicked because he's playing with Abraham, right? Because you know, as the text says, he doesn't intend for Abraham to actually kill Isaac. Well, does that make the request better or worse, right? What, pray tell, is God's reason for asking this of him? Now, in the Old Testament itself, we get one, namely that God is putting Abram's faith to the test, right? To see how much he really trusts him, how much he really loves him. Will he go all the way to give up the thing that he loves the most to his God? In other words, God asks him, do you love your son or do you love me? Right? However, I think that even that doesn't ultimately explain the story in total, in whole, right? Ultimately, from a Christian perspective, this story only is going to find explanation in the sacrifice of another only beloved son. And if you read through the writings of the ancient Christians, the early church fathers, they all recognize that in Genesis 22, what we had was really a pre-enactment of Calvary. We had a prefiguration of what God was going to do, God the Father was going to do, with his only beloved Son on Calvary and the sacrifice of Christ. And that the real reason God asked this of Abraham was not just to test him, but because he needed a man of such great faith that he would go all the way up to that very last moment before he drove the knife into his son to pre-enact what was going to happen in actuality in the life and death of Jesus Christ. Now, you can see this if you look at the text, again, typologically, and draw parallels between the Old and the New Testament. So, let's just walk back through the story in Genesis 22, 1 and following, and highlight some of the parallels between the sacrifice of Isaac and the sacrifice of Christ. So, for example, look at verse 2. It says, Abraham, God says to Abraham, take your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love. So, what's the first point? Number one, Father Abraham is offering his only beloved son as a sacrifice. Well, when you fast forward to the New Testament, what do you have? God the Father is offering his, quote, only beloved son on the cross, right? What's the Father say at Jesus' baptism? Not just this is my son, but this is my beloved son. Right? The very same language we find from the book of Genesis. Second, in verses 4 to 6, Isaac carries the wood of his own sacrifice up the mountain. When we come to the Gospels, Jesus carries the wood of his own cross up to Golgotha, up to Calvary. Third, when Isaac comes to the moment of where he's about to be sacrificed, how does he address Abraham? He says, my father. In Hebrew, Avi. Well, when you come to the Garden of Gethsemane, and Jesus is in the face of his moment of agony and sacrifice, he prays in a heartfelt way to God the Father. And what does he say? Abba. The Aramaic form of the exact same expression. Father, right? Take this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will be done, but thine. Fourth, in response to Isaac's query, where is the lamb? Abraham speaks prophetically and says, God himself will provide the lamb. When you fast forward to the Gospels, what does John the Baptist say when he first sees Jesus? The words I began the session with. Behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. If you keep going here, and this is very critical. This is extremely important. Fifth, Isaac, in Genesis 22, willingly offers himself as a sacrifice in obedience to his father Abraham. Right? Now, sometimes this is distorted by our imagination and pictures of the sacrifice of Isaac that we get. Right? So, like, for example, in the children's Bible that I had, it had an image of old Abraham, he looks like he's 120, and And then Isaac, who looks like he's 4, 5, 6 years old, like a little bitty boy, right? But in the text itself of Genesis in the Hebrew, this is not the case for two reasons. First, Isaac is called a young man, right? And second, he's old enough to carry enough wood to burn a sacrifice up a mountain. So he's not a little child, right? He's a young man. And he knows what's happening when his father takes up the knife and binds him to the wood. And presumably, say he's 17, 18, or even older, he could have wrestled the old man to the ground if he didn't want to be sacrificed, right? He could have put up some objection. He could have put up a fight, but he doesn't do it. He obeys his father and lays down the wood and allows himself to be bound. Now, what does that mean? This is critical. That means that Abraham is not the only one offering a sacrifice. Isaac is also offering a sacrifice by willingly laying down his life. So notice then, what does that make Isaac? I said last session, if you offer sacrifices in the Old Testament, what does that make you? A priest, right? So if Isaac sacrifices himself, he's both priest and victim. He's both priest and sacrifice. So the father, Abraham, is offering his son, but the son, Isaac, is also offering himself in obedience to the Father. The same thing is true of Christ, right? Christ willingly offers himself in obedience to the Father as a sacrifice. And in that way becomes both priest and victim. Because remember this is critical too. I know I'm saying that, but professors think everything they say is critical, right? This is important. The sacrifice is not first and foremost in the shedding of blood. It's in the offering. It's in the self-offering. It's in making a gift. Isaac doesn't know he's going to be saved. Abraham doesn't know he's going to be saved. So even though there isn't any bloodshed, they still sacrifice. That's why we can still call it the sacrifice of Isaac. Because they both made that act of will whereby they offer it to God. Does that make sense? You see? It's in the giving. And of course, in the Old Testament, God provides a way of escape. He provides a ram caught by its horns in the thicket to be offered in place of Isaac. And the early church fathers all saw this as a prefiguration of Jesus. Right? Because the ram was often a symbol of royalty. The horns of the ram would be a symbol of something that kings would have. So when the ram gets its head caught in a thicket, right, in a thorn bush, it's, this is a type of Christ who will go to his mountain of sacrifice wearing a crown of thorns. Isaac didn't have to die, but Christ would. Christ did. Now, what do we make of these parallels? Well, I guess a true skeptic could try to chalk them up to coincidence, but it's really tough to do that, right? Because remember, the book of Genesis is not written by Christians, right? It's written by ancient Hebrews, right? It's the patrimony of the ancient Jewish people. However, there's one last parallel that I think moves it way beyond the realm of doubt into the realm of providence, right? That this is prophetic, that this is prophecy. And it has to do with the last parallel, namely, where does the sacrifice of Isaac take place? Now, I mentioned earlier when I was reading Genesis 22 that it's in the land of Moriah. Now, for most of us who read the Old Testament, that doesn't ring any bells because it's only mentioned twice in the Old Testament. But if you go to the other occasion, namely 2 Chronicles, chapter 3, verse 1 through 2, and you ask, where was Moriah, or more specifically, where did the sacrifice of Isaac take place, you'll find something interesting. Because in 2 Chronicles, chapter 3, verse 1 and 2, we read these words. Then Solomon began to build the house of the Lord, namely the temple, where? In Jerusalem on Mount Moriah. So Solomon, many years after Abraham, will build the temple on the same mountain that Isaac was crucified on. And then go down another millennium to the time of Jesus, and Jesus will be sacrificed on the mountain of Jerusalem, on the Temple Mount, right? On a hill on that mountain called Golgotha. So Isaac is offered on the mountain of Moriah. Christ is going to be offered on the mountain of Moriah, right? In the city of Jerusalem. Now, is this a coincidence? I think not. I'll never forget the first time I was teaching this to a class. It was my first Old Testament class, and I brought that up, that they're sacrificed on the same mountain. And one of the students, who was no longer a Christian, she'd grown up a Christian, raised her hand and she said, Dr. Pitre, is this public knowledge? Why have I never heard this before? And I said, well, I mean, it's public knowledge to the extent that it's in the Bible, and you can get a copy at Walmart, it's around, but nobody reads 2 Chronicles. That's the problem. It's in 2 Chronicles. You have to know the whole Old Testament to see it. But the reason she said that was because she recognized, she felt the force of the prophecy, right? That this is not just, us connecting the dots. This is God pre-enacting 2,000 years before Calvary what he was going to do on Jerusalem that day when his son died, right? This was God taking Abraham and his faith and using him as a prophet in action, right? So that we could know that Calvary was part of a divine plan. It wasn't just some happenstance, right? Another Jew caught in the dragging of Rome. No. This is the fulfillment of prophecy. This is God's plan of salvation for us. Because ultimately, it's going to be through the death of Jesus Christ that all the families of the earth are blessed. And St. Augustine says that in one of his writings on Harmony of the Gospels. He actually says to his pagan critics of Christianity, don't you see that what was prophesied to Abraham has come true? All the nations of the earth have now been blessed through Jesus Christ. And they are all throwing their idols away and worshiping the God of Israel. This is prophecy. This is fulfillment, right? This is a motive of credibility for believing that Christianity is not just one more man-made religion, it's the divinely revealed religion. So if we turn to the pages of Exodus, chapter 12, there's one more lamb that demands our attention. And in some ways, it's even more important for understanding the Eucharist than the sacrifice of Isaac and the imagery of the lamb in Genesis. And this is the story of the Passover in Exodus chapters 12 and 13. You don't have to have read the book of Exodus to know the story. You can see the movie, right? You've seen the famous film, The Ten Commandments. You'll know that the story of the Exodus is really a story of deliverance. God sends his prophet Moses to Pharaoh of Egypt in order to deliver the 12 tribes from their bondage to Pharaoh and lead them home to the promised land. And after a series of various plagues, the water in the Nile, changing the blood, the frogs and the flies, right, and the locusts, all those different plagues. Finally, Pharaoh relents. He lets the people of Israel go, and then they begin their journey to Mount Sinai. Now, in the midst of those plagues, though, the only one that really finally breaks Pharaoh's will, right, and gets him to let them go, is the 10th plague, the plague of Passover. And it's there that we encounter the second image of the Lamb in God's instructions to the Israelite people as to how they are to be preserved from the angel of death that's going to pass over the land of Egypt. And it's through this sacrifice of the Passover lamb. So let's look at this together in Exodus chapter 12, verse 1 and following. And we want to look again at the Passover lamb, and we want to look very carefully at exactly what God commands of the Israelites, and then we want to ask ourselves why. Right? Why does he do it in their original context? And then how does it point forward to the New Testament and to the life of Christ? So in Exodus 12, verse 1, we read these words. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, this month shall be for you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year. Tell all the congregation of Israel that on the 10th day of this month, and the month here that's being mentioned is the month Nisan, which is not a kind of car. N-I-S-A-N, Nisan. It's a month, it's around March, April in the spring. It's a lunar month, so it doesn't match up with ours exactly. But it's in the springtime. They're going to begin their calendar year in Nisan. And on the 10th day of this month, in verse 3 it says, they shall take every man a lamb according to their fathers' houses, a lamb for a household, and if the household is too small for a lamb, then a man and his neighbor next to his house shall take according to the number of persons. According to what each can eat, you shall make an account for the lamb. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male, a year old. You shall take it from the sheep or from the goats, and you shall keep it until the 14th day of the month, when the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill their lambs in the evening. Then they shall take some of the blood and put it on the 2 doorposts and the lintel of the houses in which they eat them. They shall eat the flesh that night, roasted, with unleavened bread and bitter herbs they shall eat. Do not eat any of it raw or boiled with water, but roast it, its head with its legs and its inner parts. In other words, the whole lamb, right? You will cook it all in its entirety. And you shall let none of it remain until the morning. Anything that remains until the morning, you shall burn. And in this manner you shall eat it. Your loins girded, your sandals on your feet, your staff in your hand. You shall eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover. In Hebrew, the word there is Pesach. P-E-S-A-H. Pesach, the Lord's Passover. Why? For I will pass through, or pass over, the land of Egypt that night, and I will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and on all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am the Lord. And the blood shall be a sign for you upon the houses where you are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you. See the pun there? Right? It's going to be the Lord's Passover, because when I see the blood, I will pass over you. When I see the blood, I will pass over you, and no plague shall fall upon you to destroy you when I smite the land of Egypt. And then in verse 14, you hear these words, very important. This day shall be for you a what? A memorial, or a remembrance, right? And you shall keep it as a feast to the Lord throughout your generations. You shall observe it as an ordinance forever. Let's pause there. A lot there for us to take apart here. This is a foundational event for the Jewish people. If you know, even to this day, the contemporary Jews will know that the Passover is the most important festival of the year, right? And the celebration of the Passover meal, the Seder meal, it's called today, is central to the Jewish faith. So this is a foundational moment in the history of Israel. And so we want to try to unpack it for what it meant to them, and then ask how it points forward to Christ. And in order to do this, we need to break down exactly what steps here are being required of the people. So God's telling the people of Israel that on the night of the Passover, I'm going to pass through the land of Egypt, and I'm going to smite all of the firstborn in the land of Egypt, right? And if you've read the rest of the book of Exodus, you'll know that includes the firstborn of Pharaoh, right? All the way down to the firstborn of the lowest servant, and even the firstborn of the animals, right? The cow. Which, by the way, if you've ever seen any of those documentaries that try to explain all the plagues through purely scientific means, And they say that one of the, if you've seen these before in the Discovery Channel or whatnot, they'll say, oh, well, what really happened on Passover night was that there was a volcano that erupted. And it put out this really heavy toxic gas that went along the ground, and the Egyptians had a custom that the firstborn would sleep on the floor, right? And that's why all the firstborn died. And you got to get out of there and watch this. And it always makes me laugh, because if you read Exodus carefully, it says the firstborn of the cattle died too. So evidently the cows had a custom that their firstborn was, that doesn't work, okay? No, this is the Lord executing judgment against Pharaoh for his hardness of heart, right? In refusing to let the people of Israel go. And now the Israelites will suffer the same fate unless they follow the prescription we just read from the Passover and the sacrifice of the lamb in Exodus 12. So if you look at Exodus 12 carefully, and the steps that they have to follow, you'll see something interesting about the sacrifice of the lamb. First, number one, they would have to choose an unblemished male lamb, 1 year old. In other words, in its prime, right? You don't want to give God, we talked about this before with sacrifices, the worst. You want to give them the best. So you don't pick the three-legged lamb, or you don't pick the one that has the mange, some kind of disease, and give that to God. It has to be unblemished, a male, 1 year old. Right? Step one. Second step, you sacrifice the lamb. And you'll notice here that it says you choose the lamb on the 10th day, and then you sacrifice it on the 14th day. Right? Just enough